Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026, and you're listening to Alex's News. In Riverside today, we are expecting a high temperature of 82.2 degrees, while the low will dip down to 55.5 degrees. It is shaping up to be a very pleasant day for those of you in the region, so hopefully you can get outside and enjoy it. On the program today, we are breaking down the details regarding why the government is allocating billions of dollars to resolve a legal settlement involving the president. We are also monitoring the emergency response to two massive wildfires that are currently burning out of control across Southern California. Beyond those major reports, we have plenty of other stories to cover. All of this and more is coming up on Alex's News, so stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. We're following a major story out of Washington today involving the Department of Justice, President Donald Trump, and a settlement that's already drawing fierce constitutional challenges. Joining me now to walk us through it is our reporter, Ethan. Ethan, good morning.
Good morning, Grace. Yes, this one is enormous, both in dollar terms and in legal implications. The DOJ and President Trump have reached a settlement to resolve a long-standing $10 billion lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service. As of today, May 19th, that lawsuit has been dismissed in exchange for a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded compensation pool. It's being called the Anti-Weaponization Fund, and critics are already calling it unconstitutional.
That dollar figure is so specific. Where did this lawsuit even come from in the first place?
It goes back several years. As reported by PBS NewsHour and The Washington Post, President Trump, along with his sons Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump, and the Trump Organization, filed a $10 billion suit against the IRS. They allege the agency failed to safeguard private tax information, which led to the 2019 and 2020 leaks of the president's tax returns to the New York Times and ProPublica. The leak was traced to a federal contractor named Charles Littlejohn, who's currently serving a 5-year prison sentence for the unauthorized disclosure. The Trump family argued the leaks caused irreparable financial and reputational harm.
But isn't there an obvious problem with a sitting president suing his own executive branch?
That's exactly what legal analysts flagged from the beginning. It created a profound conflict of interest, because the president has ultimate control over the very agency being sued. And that tension actually shaped how this case wrapped up, because the judge wanted answers about whether a real legal dispute even existed. We'll get to that in a moment, but it's central to understanding why critics are calling this settlement so unusual.
Okay, let's talk about the settlement itself. What's actually in this deal?
ABC News was first to report the details, and the DOJ officially announced it yesterday, May 18th. The government is establishing a fund totaling exactly $1,776 million. That's a symbolic figure referencing the year of American independence. According to NBC News, the amount was based on what officials called the projected valuation of future claimants, claims. In exchange, President Trump and his co-plaintiffs agreed to drop the $10 billion IRS lawsuit entirely.
And I understand the president is also dropping some other claims as part of this?
Yes, this goes well beyond the IRS dispute. Trump agreed to waive all claims for damages regarding the 2022 FBI search of Mar-a-Lago and also investigations connected to the Russian collusion scandal. So the release of claims is very broad. The president and his immediate family are technically barred from receiving direct cash payouts from this specific fund. They did, however, receive a formal apology from the IRS as part of the deal.
So if the Trump family can't collect directly, then who actually gets this $1.776 billion?
This is where it gets controversial. PBS and ABC News both noted that Trump's associates and political allies are not barred from filing claims. The fund is officially designed to, quote, hear and redress claims of others who suffered weaponization and lawfare, end quote. And NBC News reports that the mechanism specifically allows individuals, including January 6th rioters previously pardoned by the president, to seek taxpayer-funded payouts for alleged government overreach. Payouts for those who committed violence against Capitol Police would be determined by a committee of, quote, very talented people, end quote.
That's quite a range of potential claimants. Who's actually running this fund?
The oversight structure was established by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. It's a 5-member commission. 4 members are appointed by the Attorney General, and 1 is chosen in consultation with congressional leadership. Crucially, the President maintains the authority to remove any member at any time, and the fund is set to stop processing claims on December 15, 2028, which is roughly 1 month before the scheduled end of Trump's second term.
That timing is striking. Let's get into the constitutional fight. What's the core legal objection here?
The big question centers on the Federal Judgment Fund, which is codified at 31 U.S.C. Section 1304. It's a permanent appropriation used to pay settlements against the U.S. government when no other funding is available. Critics, including legal scholars and 93 House Democrats, argue this use of the fund violates the Appropriations Clause, found in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. That clause gives Congress the, quote, power of the purse, end quote. As NPR and the Washington Post note, opponents say weaponization isn't even a recognized statutory cause of action.
And what does the administration say in response?
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and DOJ officials argue that the Attorney General has plenary authority to settle litigation to avoid lawfare. They specifically cite the 2010 Keep Siegel v. Vilsack settlement, which compensated Native American farmers, as a precedent for using the Judgment Fund to settle broad grievances. So the administration's position is that this is well within established practice. Critics strongly disagree, and they point to a very specific statute that complicates the picture.
What statute are they pointing to?
It's 26 U.S.C. Section 7431. Under that law, damages for tax return leaks are typically capped at $1,000 per act or actual proven damages. So critics argue that a $1.776 billion settlement in a case where the plaintiffs themselves received $0 personally, with the money instead flowing to third parties, amounts to what they call a, quote, de facto new appropriation, end quote, and an unconstitutional, quote, slush fund, end quote. Senator Elizabeth Warren characterized the move as, quote, corruption on steroids, end quote.
Those are strong words. What happened in court when all this came together?
Yesterday, May 18th, U.S. District Judge Kathleen M. Williams ordered the case closed. The Trump administration had been facing a deadline to explain whether a legitimate, quote, case or controversy, end quote, existed, given the president's control over the defendant agency. Judge Williams dismissed the case with prejudice, but she expressed significant displeasure with the lack of transparency. Because Trump's personal lawyers filed a voluntary dismissal, the court was effectively stripped of its ability to review the fairness of the $1.8 billion deal before it was finalized.
So the judge basically had her hands tied. What about Congress? Is there any move to block this?
There is. The House Democrats' litigation task force, led by Representative Jamie Raskin, moved to block the fund, but that motion was unsuccessful, precisely because of the voluntary dismissal of the underlying suit. As of today, major watchdog groups, including CREW, which stands for Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and also Public Citizen, have vowed to file new lawsuits under the Administrative Procedure Act. They argue the fund represents a violation of the Domestic Emoluments Clause and what they call a, quote, brazen act of self-dealing, end quote.
So where does this all stand right now, as of this morning?
As of today, May 19th, the fund is legally active but under intense scrutiny. The DOJ has begun setting up the commission, although no members have been publicly named yet. The Treasury has a 60-day window to deposit the $1.776 billion. And legal experts expect that window will be met with a flurry of new emergency injunction requests from both congressional leadership and government watchdog organizations.
What should our listeners be watching for in the coming days?
A few things. First, the announcement of those commission members, because that will tell us a lot about who has influence over which claims get paid. Second, any emergency court filings from CREW, Public Citizen, or congressional Democrats trying to halt the Treasury transfer. And third, watch for how broadly the commission interprets the term weaponization, since that definition will determine whether pardoned January 6th defendants and Trump allies actually collect payouts. The next 60 days are going to be pivotal.
A truly remarkable story, and clearly one that's far from over. Ethan, thank you so much for breaking it all down for us this morning.
My pleasure, Grace. We'll keep tracking it.
That was our reporter Ethan, with the latest on the Anti-Weaponization Fund settlement. We'll be right back with more after this. We're following two major wildfires burning out of control across Southern California this morning. Together, the Sandy Fire near Simi Valley and a massive blaze on Santa Rosa Island have scorched more than 16,000 acres. For the very latest, we're joined by our reporter Chloe. Chloe, good morning. Let's start with the Sandy Fire. What do we know?
Good morning, Grace. The Sandy Fire broke out yesterday morning, Monday, May 18th, in the hills above Simi Valley, about 30 miles northwest of Los Angeles. According to ABC 30 Fresno, NBC News, and KSAT, the first reports came in around 10 a.m. near the 600 block of Sandy Avenue and Sequoia Avenue. As of last evening, it had burned roughly 1,364 acres, and it's still at 0% containment. Crews are working around the clock, but conditions have been brutal.
0% containment is alarming. Do investigators have any idea yet what actually started it?
That's where it gets interesting. The Simi Valley Police Department says they got a 911 call at 10:17 a.m. Monday from a resident in the 2600 block of Rudolph Drive. That caller claimed he accidentally hit a rock with a tractor while clearing brush, and the sparks ignited the dry grass. But the Ventura County Fire Department and CAL FIRE haven't confirmed that account. Officially, they're saying the cause remains, quote, under investigation, end quote.
And I understand there's some speculation about a utility company being involved as well?
Yes, and this is where the financial market started reacting. There's public speculation about Southern California Edison's infrastructure, even though no official fault reports have been confirmed by the California Public Utilities Commission. The Los Angeles Times noted that Edison International stock dropped 6% right after the fire ignited. That's likely tied to the utility's history of liability in past disasters, including the 2025 Eaton fire. High-voltage transmission lines do run through the Simi Hills, just south of where this fire started.
Let's talk about the people on the ground. How many residents have had to leave their homes?
The numbers are staggering, Grace. According to the Ventura County government and the Office of Governor Gavin Newsom, more than 28,000 residents are under mandatory evacuation orders. That includes southern Simi Valley zones 32A, 33A, 34, and 35, plus Bell Canyon and Santa Susana. On top of that, another 8,000 to 10,000 people in northern Thousand Oaks, Hidden Hills, Agora Hills, and West Hills are under evacuation warnings. So they need to be ready to leave at a moment's notice.
What about Los Angeles proper? Are city neighborhoods in danger of being overrun?
So far, no. On Monday evening, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said warnings were issued for West Hills and Chatsworth, quote, out of an abundance of caution, end quote. But the fire wasn't expected to breach LA city limits. As of midday today, those reassurances are still holding. The fire remains contained within Ventura County. Officials are watching the wind patterns very closely, though, because that could change fast.
Has there been significant damage to homes or landmarks?
At least one home on Trickling Brook Court has been completely destroyed, and several other structures are damaged. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum, which sits on a nearby hillside, closed Monday and remains closed today. The Simi Valley Unified School District also canceled all classes for Tuesday, so a lot of families are juggling evacuations and childcare simultaneously.
And what kind of firefighting resources have been thrown at this blaze?
More than 750 firefighters from the Ventura County Fire Department and the Los Angeles Fire Department are on the scene. They're being supported by night-flying helicopters and air tankers. Governor Newsom also announced that California has secured a FEMA grant to help cover response costs. The good news, according to NBC News and KSAT, is that the Santa Ana winds, which were gusting up to 40 miles per hour, started to subside Tuesday. That's giving ground crews a real chance to build containment lines.
Now let's pivot to the other fire, because this one is even bigger. Tell us about Santa Rosa Island.
This one is really remarkable, Grace. Santa Rosa Island is the second largest of the Channel Islands, and the fire there has burned somewhere between 14,600 and 15,000 acres. That's roughly 1/4 of the entire island. It's the largest wildfire in California so far in 2026, and like the Sandy Fire, it's at 0% containment.
15,000 acres is enormous. Why are we only hearing about it now?
That's the strange part. The fire actually started last Friday, May 15th, 4 days ago. But the island is 26 miles offshore, and gale force winds prevented early aerial mapping. So there was a 3-day delay before this story really broke into widespread news coverage. By the time crews got a clear look at the scale, it had already grown dramatically.
Do we know how it started out there on a remote island?
We do, and it's an unusual story. According to the U.S. Coast Guard and the National Park Service, a 67-year-old sailor ran his boat aground on the southern shore of the island. He fired distress flares to signal for help, and those flares accidentally ignited the dry vegetation. The sailor was eventually rescued after he etched the letters SOS into the charred earth. So a rescue signal turned into the largest wildfire of the year so far.
That's incredible. What's been lost ecologically and historically on the island?
Quite a bit, unfortunately. The historic Johnson's Lee equipment shed and the Wreckline camp cabin have both been destroyed. The fire also reached the eastern side of the island, which is home to the rare Torrey pine, one of the world's rarest pine species. Initial reports there are, quote, cautiously optimistic, end quote, suggesting the fire moved through the grove with low intensity, so those stands may actually be intact.
What about the wildlife? I know Santa Rosa Island has some unique animals.
It does. The island is home to the endemic island foxes and spotted skunks, which you really don't find anywhere else. No wildlife casualties have been confirmed at this point, but biologists haven't been able to get out there for on-the-ground surveys yet. The danger is just too high, so we won't have a real ecological assessment for some time.
How do you even fight a fire on an island 26 miles offshore?
It's enormously difficult, Grace. According to ABC 30, all 11 National Park Service employees were evacuated, and the island is closed to the public. Firefighters and equipment have to be ferried in by boat, and the high winds that have plagued this fire from the start frequently ground the air tankers needed to drop retardant. So crews are battling not just the flames, but the logistics of getting anything to the front line.
Before we let you go, what resources are available right now for people displaced by the Sandy Fire?
A few key locations are active. The main evacuation center is at Rancho Santa Susana Community Park, 5005 Los Angeles Avenue. For small animals, people can go to the Simi Valley Animal Shelter at 670 West Los Angeles Avenue. And for livestock or large animals, the Ventura County Fairgrounds at 10 West Harbor Boulevard in Ventura is open. There's also a significant smoke advisory in effect across Los Angeles and Ventura counties, so air quality is a real concern, even for people far from the flames.
Chloe, thank you so much for that thorough rundown. We'll be checking back with you throughout the morning as this story develops. Stay safe out there.
Thanks, Grace. We'll keep you posted.
Here are some other headlines. It is a primary concern for voters today across 6 states as they head to the polls for a mini Super Tuesday that is anything but small potatoes. Citizens in Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania are casting ballots on this 19th of May, 2026, in what serves as a high-stakes litmus test for President Trump's political poll. In Kentucky, things are getting horse sense intense as the president campaigns aggressively to unseat Representative Thomas Massie in favor of challenger Ed Gulrine. Meanwhile, in Georgia, it is a peach of a mess, with a crowded field of Republicans vying to challenge Senator Jon Ossoff, a race that looks like it will head to a June runoff. Voters are navigating these choices while national concerns over inflation and the ongoing conflict in Iran weigh heavy on the ballot box, heightening the stakes for the future balance of power in Congress. On a somber note, in Southern California, San Diego is mourning after a tragic shooting at the Islamic Center. 2 teenage gunmen, aged 17 and 18, opened fire on Monday, claiming the lives of 3 people before taking their own. We remember security guard Amin Abdullah, who stood his ground to prevent further casualties, along with 2 staff members of the center school. Investigators found a trail of hate rhetoric and anti-Islamic writings in the suspect's vehicle, leading the FBI to open a federal case, while Mayor Todd Gloria bolsters security at houses of worship to ensure peace remains a sanctuary. The attack on the region's largest mosque has refocused national attention on religious intolerance, with Imam Taha Hassaneh calling for greater tolerance in the wake of this tragedy. Across the globe, Ukraine is proving that where there is smoke, there is definitely fire for the Russian economy. President Zelensky announced that long-range drone strikes have fueled a 10% drop in Russia's oil refining capacity. The latest spark came from a massive strike on the Slavneft-Yanos refinery, sending production sliding to a 17-year low of 4.69 million barrels per day. With oil prices slicking past $100 a barrel, these long-range sanctions are really drilling into the Kremlin's war chest, making it harder for them to keep their energy high as their wells go dry. In health news, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing a viral villain that is proving hard to catch. A rare outbreak of the Bundibugyo Ebola strain has claimed nearly 120 lives in the Ituri province. This strain currently has no approved vaccine, making the medical response a real shot in the dark. 3 new treatment centers are opening in Bunia, Rwampara, and Mongwalu as the virus hitches a ride to Goma and Uganda. Among those fighting for their lives is an American physician, Dr. Peter Stafford, who is being evacuated for treatment. It is a feverish race against time in a region where rebel activity is making it difficult for medical teams to hit the road and reach over 350 suspected cases. Finally, in the courtroom, Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI has officially run out of time. A federal jury in Oakland took less than 2 hours to decide that Musk waited too long to file his claims, essentially telling the billionaire his legal clock had struck midnight. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers dismissed the $150 billion suit, clearing a path for OpenAI's potential $852 billion public offering. Musk says he will appeal the calendar technicality, but for now, it seems he missed the bus on this particular legal battle. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Opus 4.6, Gemini Pro 3.1, Gemini Flash 3, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.